arts and entertainment. And understand we have a contingent from Beaver Island with us today. Well, they know where they live, but in case the rest of you don't, I was talking to somebody this morning and I said, I'm inducting someone from Beaver Island. She said, oh, where? Anyway, and she's a Michigan person. So. Anyway, for those of you that are not aware, Beaver Island is the largest of a group of islands in northern Lake Michigan. It became home to many Irish immigrants, mostly from the west coast of Ireland. In fact, due to the large Irish immigrant population that came to live on Beaver Island, it became known as America's Emerald Isle, both here and in Ireland. Two of these early immigrants were Captain John Bonner and his wife, Sophie. Patrick, their son, was born there in 1882. Pat Bonner lived most of his life on Beaver Island until his passing in 1973. And while there, over the years, Pat Bonner was in great demand to play his fiddle for dances and house parties all over Beaver Island. His fiddling was a unique blend of Irish and Michigan styles. Many of the tunes he played were brought here by family members to Beaver Island by immigrants from County Donegal. Others were morphed from tunes that he had learned at Michigan lumber camps and on schooners that sailed the Great Lakes, and from the early days of radio and other recordings. To begin to understand the importance of Pat Bonner as an Irish-American treasure right here in Michigan, one need look no further than the recordings and interviews that were done with Pat over the years. The folklorist Ivan Walton interviewed and recorded him numerous times between 1930 and 1962. Ed O'Donnell from Beaver Island recorded Pat a number of times in the 1950s and 1960s, preserving these recordings at the University of Michigan Bentley Historical Library and the Cultural Collections of Michigan State University Museum. The internationally renowned collector of cultural things, Alan Lomax. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Alan Lomax, but growing up as a folk musician, I heard of Lomax a number of years. He traveled to Beaver Island in 1938 to collect some of Patrick's songs. He recorded that, and those recordings are well preserved in the archives of the United States Library of Congress today in Washington, D.C. Patrick Bonner's contributions to the culture of all the people of our state enrich our understanding of who we are and from whence we spring. Not only is the grandson of Pat Bonner with us, but Pat Bonner's fiddle is also with us today. That's what you heard when when Glenn was playing it just prior to the ceremony. My understanding, it was not in the greatest shape when he got it, but he's restored it to its richness. Anyway, accepting on behalf of Pat Bonner and the good Irish descendants who still reside on Beaver Island is Pat Bonner's grandson, Cameron Bonner.
It's a great honor for me and my family to be a part of this event honoring my grandfather. When my grandfather died in 1973, he was 91 and I was about 11. So I don't remember a lot of my grandfather when he was a younger man. But I remember about him as being very frail. I remember his hands being very crippled with arthritis and him being very senile. But the interesting thing about that is while he had difficulty remembering what he ate for breakfast that morning, he had no problem remembering tunes that he played when he was born. So most of the stories that I get are handed down to me by my father. And I asked my dad recently, I said, this Alan Lomax event that happened in 1938, I said, do you remember that? And he said, oh yeah, I remember it very well. And I said, well geez, Dad, you would have been 5 years old. And he said, yeah, you know how I remember that? He said, that day they strung a cable across the floor. And me being 5 years old, I was running around and I tripped over the wire and unplugged the recording. And I got a whopper of a beating that day. So, but anyway, my grandfather left us 3 great gifts. He left us his favorite pocket watch. He left us his fiddle that Glenn has been so kind to take good care of, and then he left us his music, which we'll cherish forever. So thank you so much, and God bless Pat Bonner and Beaver Island and Dunnegal County.
Well, thank you, David and Cameron.